Welcome everyone to tonight's Alumni Career Panel, where we're going to be talking about the journey of career changers. We are sponsoring this evening's panel from a group called NextSteppers, which we started this year. My name is Judy Rosen. I'm a master's student. I'll be graduating in exactly 5 weeks. So. And this is Liz Philbrun. She's in her first year, also an NSW candidate. She'll be running the group next year. So if anyone is interested, we do have a meeting coming up on Thursday, April 18th at 1 p.m. And we're looking for people who will be continuing on next year that would like to help out with the group. Okay. But tonight we have 4 very interesting alumni panelists that are going to talk about their journey coming back to school from being in other careers, as well as what it was like for them when they graduated and started anew as a professional social worker. So I'm going to introduce our panelists first, and each of them will take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about the kind of work that they're doing now. Okay? And to my left is Laura Jacobs. She graduated in 2008. She's a psychotherapist at the Institute for Personal Growth. We have Jessica Kasevich. She's also an MSW from 2008, and she's a psychotherapist in her own private practice, JQ Therapy. And Mindy Shate, she is graduated from 2011, a family specialist on the Bronx ACT team of the Visiting Nurse Service of New York. And finally, we have Kit Market. She's also a 2011 graduate with an MSW, and she's a geriatric care manager with Senior Source. So, like I said, I thought we'd kick things off to talk a little bit about, let's go with what career you came from, and just a little bit about the placement where you're at.
Okay, well that's actually kind of complicated because I had several careers before even having this career. Short story is I dropped out of college at 19 because I was bored, I was a little depressed as well, and I wanted to pursue music. I had been a musician growing up. I performed, and I initially went to school to study computers because I felt I needed something more, I don't know, traditional, make my parents happy. That didn't last very long. So then I dropped out and I pursued music for a long time. I worked in bands, I did composition for theater, I did some studio recording work, things like that. At the same time, I did some photography and exhibited in galleries. And since neither of those came anywhere close to paying the bills, I had a very boring mid-level job managing in a marketing research firm. So after a while, I just felt unfulfilled doing the marketing research thing, and music wasn't really going anywhere professionally. And I kind of felt like I needed to change a career, so I went back to college to finish my bachelor's degree at 30-something. And finished my bachelor's degree, it took a year, and then came back to social work school.
I graduated college with an English degree and a minor in political science. I was thinking about law school, but then I realized student loans are coming due, and I couldn't afford law school at the time. So I went into sales. Working for Ethan Allen doing interior decorating. And sales was a way to make a lot of money really quick. So during that time, I would go into people's homes, measure out their rooms, make floor plans for them, really work on projects with them. And during that time, you spend months working with people. You really get to know about their families, who they are, what difficulties they're going through. A lot of stay-at-home women would get done with one project, go on to the next project, really trying to fill a void in their life. So I realized they're opening up to me, telling me all about their families and their problems, and I'm becoming their therapist. So why not get paid for this? So I decided to go to social work school, and that was my true passion, to go into private practice and help people and really understand or learn about their family dynamics and be able to help them the best way I can. That was my change of career.
So I used to be a patent lawyer, and a lot of what I did was defend generic drug companies that were trying to come onto the market. there was a part of me that wanted something else. In fact, Jessica, as you were talking about it, reminded me of this one time after I completed the deposition, the witness, the opposing counsel said to me, in his best condescending male litigator fashion, he said, I like your approach, kind of like a therapist. And then I realized, maybe this is actually telling me something. That I feel that communicating with people less adversarial ways can feel something more satisfying. It's so difficult, I have to say. So at any rate, the combination of having children gone, and so I could start to think about maybe what might be more satisfying to me, and the economy, which basically decimated many of the lawyers, not only in my firm, but in all of New York City. The timing was right, and so I actually came here thinking that I would do it part-time while I was still working as an attorney, and then was laid off, and completely switched gears from the extended program to the accelerated program. And so then I am now working in community mental health. I'm an MT, pretty intense, but I'm used to intense.
I also was in a law firm when I was slightly different. I was a research attorney, so I was a specialist in that area, working with 800 lawyers, and things felt like it all the time. At the same time, some multitasking became very near to my heart. But I began to get bored. I began to find other things to do. And I was in large law firms where I had 4 generations. I had veterans, and millennials, and Generation Y, and the summer associates. This is really interesting. And then I got really into geriatrics. I began to do lectures about geriatrics and dealing with personal problems in the workplace. And I said, I should be doing this for a living because I'm tired of working with lawyers. No offense, since I am one myself. So, and I fell into it, and I just adore geriatrics. It's just the most fascinating group of people because I work with all different types of families. I was speaking before, my oldest client is 106, but I work with her grandchild and her great-grandchild. So it's a huge weight in every day's time. It's great.
I just want to take a quick poll of the audience, and how many people are graduating, about to graduate? Okay, and so, and how many people was this their first semester here? Or first year here. First year.
So we have to do almost 2 semesters.
Okay. Tell me about what it was like to come back to school. What was the worst thing about it? And then maybe a little bit about what helped you overcome the challenges. Anyone can just join me, please?
It was homework. Friends would call me, go, can you go to movie? I go, no, I have a paper to write. It became a running joke, but they were very supportive. But it was kind of challenging to go back to school after so many years, but the professors here were great. There's a summer session to kind of get yourself into thinking of a different mindset. I went to the summer lecture series, which was fabulous. I met a lot of professors before I actually started classes. A lot of professors were great. If I had any issues or anything, they're very available. It's a very small community here, even though we have a lot of professors. It was just great to say, okay, I need this, I have this, where am I going? Am I on the right track? And after that, so that I felt was very, that to me spoke to me. That's my opinion.
I've always enjoyed being a student. I've been a student many times in my life. So, and like Kit, I also, just the nature of what a lot of lawyers do, you have to do a lot of reading, you have to do a lot of research, you have to do a lot of writing. So that part wasn't so difficult. Having no money and no status was a little more challenging, and that has proven to continue to be a challenge as I'm out of the work world. My first internship, I remember walking in, and it actually was in geriatric, primarily geriatric, was an adult daycare up in Westchester, and I had a wonderful supervisor, but she had all these interns, and they were all sitting in this room that only had 3 chairs for 3 people who worked there, so it was musical chairs all day long. And then when I actually then worked in the clinic where Laura was for a while, there was also a lot of musical chairs, and just the mindset that I had to change from having my office having a computer, having the ability to close the door, just all these items of privilege that I really completely had gotten used to. It was very humbling, educational, and I have to say in all honesty that one of the best experiences as to have coming into this field is I had to deal with unemployment. And it was wonderful to really get an appreciation of what my clients go through all the time. To be just constantly bombarded with all this ridiculous paperwork, and they always made mistakes, and it was impossible to get it right, and you have to come today, and you have to go to this appointment in the most inconvenient place, at the most inconvenient time, and then nothing will happen when you get there, but you have to go in.
I really didn't find it a challenge going back to school. I love school. I've always loved to write, very much love academics. I guess a little bit it was balancing personal life and work or internship as well as academia, but I set my boundaries as we learn in social work school for my family. And this is what I'm available to give you. This is the time I'm available to give this to you, and this is what I'm students. So obviously you fluctuate if something happens, but it was pretty clear, I can't stand anyone till Saturday night, Sunday I'll see you in the morning, and then that's it, so I was very devoted to that, because I really enjoyed what I was learning, what I was studying, and I was totally engrossed with the education here and the classes, and it was just a wonderful experience.
I'm actually not sure I have a whole lot to add because you've covered so many things I would have said. Loss of privilege certainly is a huge one. I've been the manager of a company and went to being an intern, and I remember having a lot of conflicts with my first supervisor over things like how to file. I don't know, we got into a fight once about how to file, and should I do it this way, should I do it that way, and I thought it didn't really make a whole lot of difference as long as the filing was organized. And so to go from somebody who was a manager to just having lost that much control over how I could function in the workplace, that was quite a challenge. Being single, money and household responsibilities were a huge issue. I had to put some money away, which certainly helped, but I didn't have a partner or anything. That some people do and some don't, but I didn't have this income in that kind of route. So even just managing that with chores, doing cleaning the house, and you're spending all this time doing intellectual work, which is exciting in a lot of ways, but also very draining between classwork, your field placements, the papers. You're tired, You're learning a lot, you're physically busy, you're processing a lot internally, and I didn't want to clean the house. I still don't, but certainly then I was pretty overwhelmed and dealing with a lot of that. Took a lot of energy and focus.
What skills did you bring in from your previous careers that you've been able to apply? You talked a little bit about the reading and writing as part of law, but what did you feel like when you were in class? Yeah, this helps. This really makes a difference.
In class or in the field?
In class and in field work as well.
For me, certainly, I think that the experience of having been in both professional and especially creative fields was huge. So much of being in creative fields, I think we were talking about this before, is you're sort of trying to pursue deeper issues of meaning, deeper issues of our relationship to other people, our relationship to society, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to, existence. And that's a lot of what social work is about, in many parts of it, We're helping people explore their identities and meaning. And so to have had that background and also to be able to think outside of traditional boundaries, because so much of our culture is caught up in traditional boundaries. I find that helps in my day-to-day life. Constantly, I'm always thinking about my sessions through a creative perspective. And I think being able to do that sort of work also helped me with school, just being able to juggle many different competing priorities.
Something
helped me when I got out of school to negotiate salary. We're always taught, oh, you know, you're not going to make any money. No, you deserve to get paid for what you do, especially what we do. I really believe that, and I would always tell people, no, this is what you need to pay me, and if you can't pay me, then I'm leaving. And I would. I went up very quickly. I increased my salary by 10 grand in the past 2 years. And it's just constantly taking on positions that are corporate, dialysis centers, hospice. If money is important to you, that's an issue. And I have $98,000 worth of student loans. So money is an issue for me. As much as I love being a social worker and I get rewarded from it, you have to be able to support yourself. I mean, we're not doing this for charity. I mean, we would like to, right? But that's not a reality. So those negotiating skills, and I actually coach graduates now who have questions about that. You know, where should I start? And I always say to them, medical is safe. There's always going to be a job in medical. If your goal, my goal was to be in private practice. So I knew that I needed 2 years in the field. I needed someone right away to get supervision from, and then I was going to go into my private practice. So those 2 years I looked at as a learning experience to just take in whatever I possibly could. So I worked in many hospitals, ERs, screening. I had probably 7 per diem jobs. Yeah, it was extremely tough. I was all over. I'm still working about 6 days a week, but that's what you have to do. So I was able to, like I said, to use the negotiation to get to a good salary. And I remember sitting in class and them saying, if you're here to make money, leave. And I'm like, no, there's a way to make money in this field. The hospice companies, they need a social worker on staff. They need a nurse, they need a doctor. Open up a hospice company. You're going to make a lot of money. And you're going to have obviously a lot of people, so I don't want to flip it that I'm only looking at the money, but I think we should get paid for what we do. And I remember an older woman, she's probably in her 70s, she was one of my advisors in my internship. She said, your money, your time is valuable. You need to get paid for your time and your education. I think that's really hard as social workers. We want, they can't afford it. When we do negotiate, I do negotiate my rates with people, not very much, I'll be quite honest with you. Because they do have other resources. They can go to community mental health center. That really stuck with me because we've put a lot into our profession. We've worked very hard, and I just think that we should be getting more benefits in what we do as social workers. I'm very salary.
Here, here.
Yeah, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but that's truly how I feel.
Good advocacy.
Yeah.
And self-advocacy.
It is. We often forget that.
And I think we could always put other people's needs first, and I don't think that that's necessarily the best way to be. You're going to burn out if you do that. You're going to burn out.
We're people, we have needs. We have to think to that as well.
What was the job hunt like? Did anyone encounter any kind of ageism or pushback when you were in interviews? I've talked to some other alums that have had that issue come up. Or what was the job hunt like for you after graduating?
I didn't encounter ageism, but I didn't deal with But I did encounter other sorts of isms, and I've seen other sorts of isms throughout my career. I've seen racism, although I don't feel like it's going to happen to me. My agency has, at my site, 10 clinicians, one of whom is non-Caucasian. It's noticeable. The clinicians have no role in the hiring practice, but it's noticeable, especially when you work, one of my positions is in an inner city environment. Sexism, certainly homophobia, transphobia. I know that I have a lot of things on my resume that are around LGBT issues or sexual minority issues. I do writing around these things. I'm on the board of an institution that works with LGBT issues. And I know those things on my resume made it difficult. I applied to 50 or so places and I got one interview. I got the job. Thank God. At the same time, some of that stuff is helpful. Later on, that is what got me in my current position, which I love. But I certainly encountered a lot of resistance, just from people who would see some of those things on my resume, make assumptions, not want to even interview me or discuss. It's out there, even within social work, even people I'm sure who have graduated from NYU and are in their own positions. There are people with biases who come out of these programs, and probably we all have some biases. I've encountered a lot of isms in my own career.
Myself, the most difficult thing was probably when I graduated, because it was a combination of real economic downturn. And so, for example, at a certain point, it's wonderful advice, medical, it's great advice, but because I haven't done a hospital internship, I spoke to people who were kind enough to give me informational interviews in a number of hospitals, and they were very gracious and very clear. We will not hire you, because for every one of you, there are going to be 10 to 15 people minimum who have already interned in a hospital. So I know it's going to do the work. The fact that I'm clearly a competent professional human being was really pretty relevant when there were that many other people. So that was very much of a difficulty. I hope it's less so now for all of you. Another difficulty, which I imagine people are still struggling with, may have been different for earlier graduates, is if you feel you need to get C hours, very difficult to find a job that will pay you a living wage and allow you to do this. Very difficult. So some people, if they'll do per diem work on top of their regular job, or go to the institute or something like that. These things were not, for a number of reasons, options for me. So when I sort of started exploring this ACT team idea, one of the reasons that it was attractive to me, aside from the fact that I like intense, I like all of that, was that every day, all day long, that's what you're doing. And unlike the frustration that I had when I was in an Article 31 clinic, it didn't make a difference if they didn't show up, because I mean, and it was really, we have to keep going back, because we have to see these people 6 times a month, or Medicaid isn't going to pay us. So, and of course we do still have no-shows, in many ways, or we have one woman who, one time, she wasn't doing well, and she would hide behind her door and pretend to be a cousin of herself. And say, no, so-and-so's not bad, this is her cousin. But anyway, so those two things I think were really among the most challenging, and in many ways I feel still are, as I think about what my next step will be. How to keep doing something that I love. I really love community mental health. Really love it. But there's no money there. I don't just mean money for salaries. I mean, for example, if you see the clinic that Laura and I were at, I was happy there. They liked me. But there was, any position they had open, they had to take people who were from other departments, other programs that were closing, who were already their employees, and give them work, and that was the right thing for them to do. But, now I'll look at ads, if you're not bilingual, or you're not willing to work per diem, so these are the kind of frustrations that I encounter and continue.
You can have my job there.
I'm sorry?
I said you can have my job there.
You're going to work your succession planning.
Yeah, well, it'd be easier for me to have.
Do you have any advice on making the job much smoother? Any skills from?
I was lucky that my first internship, I also worked with, my task instructor was a career changer as well. And our supervisor loved that, and I'm in gerontology. So to me, when I walk in, they're happy, even though I said I'm an intern, and I said that very clearly because I was following laws, they often thought I had more experience, many more years experience, just because I was older and short. And that is really good, but it's challenging. Bilingual is definitely a huge area because of changing the cultures and the language. But also my second internship, I was a medical social worker, so I had that. And while I was very lucky, both of my internships had really great supervisors, a lot of experience, and that really helped a lot. I had a variety. My resume has an amazing amount of stuff. Just saying, but you have to think about it. You have to value yourself. What did you do? Well, I came up with this skill into something marketable. And I think we can do that with these career changers. We're very goal-oriented. We bring a lot of skills, and how do you translate it to social work? And I actually, I have a friend of mine who's really good about going, well, you can do this skill is this. And so by doing that, maybe you're much more attractive. So that's
Give
what
some examples of this.
When I was, the hardest thing is when I was doing, I was up at the Bronx VA, and I was working with the medical team. Of course, I have no medical background at all, so what I do, I have a medical dictionary that I read all the time. But I'm really good, I would say to the nurse practitioner or the doctors, okay, what the hell did you just, very nicely, what was that abbreviation that you just said? And I would write it down, they would teach me. And also, we actually do things instinctively, I think, as career changers from our experiences in our previous lives. I feel like I'm, sure what I'm playing. Like, for example, there's something called an S-bar, which I've done, they do it in medical all the time. Situation, background, assessment, recommendation. I'm sorry, someone has come to me, they have an issue. There's the background of the issue, the problem. You do your assessment, and then there's your recommendation. It's called an S-bar. I've been doing that for a million years. That's how I deal. I'm a problem solver. So we actually have these, they may call it one thing, we already are doing it, we just don't know what it's called. Oh, S-bar, yeah, I do that all the time. So now, that's what you learn. So I think that's the way is to translate what we do into the social work language or the situation language.
I would also take the job descriptions and take my resume to specifically their job descriptions. So when I get hired, they give me a job description, I leave that place, I still keep that there and make my resume reflect exactly what they're saying.
I think one point that you made is wonderful about the language. For me, actually, it was and still is a little bit of a struggle because I still have a tendency to talk like a lawyer. So just the other day, I had a wonderful informational meeting with another former NYU who basically said very nicely, too many words, too many big words. She said, I don't want to be insulting anybody who will be looking at your resume, but dumb it down. And really what she's saying is, make it as simple and easy for the person who's picking it up to know, and certainly taking words from a job description is great, although very often what I find is, I can't do that because somebody will say, well, just give me a resume. There's no specific job that I'm submitting my resume for, so you kind of have to be a little more of a generalist because you want this person to keep you in mind in case something does come up. But that's where I think this sort of just being very clear and direct about I'm a problem solver. I'm very good at figuring out what is the main important problem and prioritizing that, whatever the skill is. Break it down.
So I have 3 resumes, and they're always working. One's for nonprofit, one's for medical, one's for mental health. They're out on the internet. The dialysis company I worked for 2 years, was a career builder. They called me and they hired me. I had an interview on the phone in a parking lot. I remember there was a snowstorm. She says, can I talk to you? I said, well, I'm kind of getting a shovel. They're in Colorado. And I said, can you give me like 10 minutes? I said, but before we have this conversation, what's the salary? And she said, well, what are you looking for? And I told her, and she said, that we can do that. I said, okay, then you call me in 10 minutes. So it's just really putting yourself out there, using the internet, using, I'm actually speaking at the National Association of Social Workers New Jersey conference about how to market yourself in private practice. Going off of using Facebook, using LinkedIn. I mean, I spend like an hour and a half a day just completely networking off of that. So I kind of use the same tools to get a job that I do in my private practice. And that's really, I think, where it's at right now with technology. Unfortunately, I know I'm not a technology person. I had to hire a marketer to begin to do my Facebook and everything else. I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. I'm more paper and pen, and in my private practice, I'm sitting there writing. I'm not on computers, right? So it's really, my brain doesn't work that way. But I had to learn how to use technology to get a job, and to run my practice and pretty much market it. So
I did a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
When applying to a job, one thing I did was just tailor your cover letter to the job description plus your past experience. You know, if they're looking for somebody who's done X, Y, Z, find some way in your past experience that you've done X, Y, Z. Just put it in the cover letter. You know, just make it very idiot-proof, you know. I also do a lot of the same things that you do with LinkedIn is huge. The position I just got at Institute for Personal Growth, which I love, is an organization in New Jersey that focuses specifically on LGBT and sexual minority mental health, which is exactly my background. I had identified them 2-3 years ago. I found their website somehow through the community. I don't know, I'd come across them and heard some wonderful things about them, kept them in the back of my head, waited until I got my seat. You know, then sent them a resume at one point when I was feeling particularly frustrated with my other job. And they called me back and said, thank you, but we're not hiring. I said, okay, you know, fine. That's what happens, whatever. Didn't really think a whole lot of it. Did a lot of the things you did, worked on my LinkedIn page, put a lot of the other things that I do on my LinkedIn page, my writing, my advocacy, my board positions, my other work, my public speaking. And it turned out that this organization, Institute for Personal Growth, called me out of the blue much later. I had written them off, thought I would never even get a job there. They told me that they were hiring, that they pulled up my resume, that they had looked at my LinkedIn page, and that I was exactly what they were looking for, because I had done a lot of that kind of work. And in the meanwhile, I'd been doing all these other activities, the advocacy, the writing. And that put me in a position to make me desirable to an organization that I really wanted to work with.
So should people be starting to think about these things now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes,
Or
sir.
just even learning how to navigate LinkedIn and, you know, and the other social network. It's really social networking.
Yeah. But I would say also doing the activities that are going to put you in these positions to make you desirable is also something to start. You know, if you have something that, some niche that you think your background lends you to, or some area of interest that you're going to pursue, really try to get involved with that right away. Start, put yourself out there, do panels like this, get involved in projects, find some way to become active in those ways. And that's what makes you desirable to an employer, and even in private practice, that's what makes people in those communities seek you out. So yeah, get started now with all that kind of stuff in your very copious, I'm sure, free time.
And the summer lecture series. So I was wondering if anybody else had advice on what to do over the summer?
Always to orient yourself to a new switching to working to going to social work, which is a lot of work. But that also you start to network. But you know, I agree. It's the LinkedIn. You know, when someone said, "Why do you want to be a social worker?" I said, because A gives me flexibility, and B, why do I want to be geriatrics? Growing business. I'll be working till I'm 106 if I want to, because it's a huge baby boomer. Someone said, "Well, that's really very business-like." I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. I got it. I want to be that. There's never going to be enough geriatric social workers ever, which has helped my salary. I was talking to Professor Luce just before I went over there. I've had 2 headhunters call me this week alone, and I'm always getting calls because there aren't enough of us. My brother calls me the geriatric social worker because he says you're older. That's just funny. But no, so I went into the field. First of all, I do love my patients. I adore the practice. Don't go into a field just because there's going to be growth. Yes, there'll be growth, but I also really like there's a lot of family dynamics. I deal with generations of caregivers, of adult children, their parents, grandchildren. It's fascinating, and I adore it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, it's a growing field. Always, always, always. And so it has helped me. And like a month ago, I had another geriatric manager try to coach me because she was growing her business. I was interested in that. That's another issue. Yes, that was another reason. It's in the back of my mind. So I did research. And when I first looked at this field, I get information of social workers, all different. Oncology, what's your typical day? What do you like? What do you don't like? You know, what's the salary range? You know, why did you stay here? Why are you leaving? And I use everything you can think of. I was doing 16 or 17 of them. And I finally said, this is worth it. And that's why I went into the field. Where I'll end up, I don't know. And that's why I don't, or even just, I sometimes just keep a pen and paper list, and then I'll put it up, but don't forget it. Because that's important, it's time, it's value, it shows that you've got an interest, and people are looking at it all the time. So, I totally agree with you, so I'm always, I keep a notebook that says, okay, you just got back from Canada, write it down. This one's already, this one went up on LinkedIn last week.
But I feel that part of it that you touched on is important. And that is that you really don't know who's going to meet you. And so really, you want, if you're getting involved in things, try to make it something that you really do care about, right? That you really, because even if you're better paid than people in community mental health are, it's still a very stressful occupation. And so you really can't tell, you didn't set out to do the things that you did so that one day this organization found you. You did them because they moved you.
Absolutely.
And you don't know where that'll take you, but personally, it's just really speaking from my heart at my age, with all the different things I've done in my life, I really feel that's really what makes the most sense, is to do the things that are important to me with my living time. And it'll come together. It'll fit. It may not fit easily, it may not fit right away when you want to, it may not pay the bills as soon as you might need it to, but that's where it really does, it develops organically.
I also found that sometimes, for instance, my first position out of school was primarily working with HIV positive communities affected by HIV and AIDS, which is not what I specifically set out to do. Being part of the LGBT community, I was always very aware of it, HIV and AIDS, but it's not my love. But I felt like a lot of the issues were relatable to what I wanted to do. The issues with HIV are stigma, disclosure, access to health care, things like that, which are the issues that the LGBT community faces. So, I took a position that I felt would help me develop my skills in something that was parallel to, or similar to, or related to where I was going. And, that has worked for me.
I'd like to open up the floor to questions, if anyone has questions or comments.
Can I ask a really crass question? It's a crass question. When you talk about, and by the way, I entered as a non-trip to do the talk to see, and so I'm really very compelled by the idea, but also coming from being an officer in an agency, ad agency. Some of the issues you were talking about, some big change in status, which, anyway, when you say that you were told in your classes, if you want to earn money, this is the wrong place, what's the range we're talking about? Like, what are you actually, is it living wage? Is it, I'm not asking anybody's salaries, I'm just saying the expectation. What's the kind of range? Is that possible for my crass question?
To answer. I know social workers with MSWs, maybe CSWs making under 40 or 40-ish in the New York region. I don't know how they're living off of this, because we've all got, we both said student loans, or we said student loans. I've got student loans that are, about my income. About equivalent to me. It's tough. Some of us are really kind of struggling to get by, even though we're doing it.
I chose to do medical. Well, I fell into medical. Medical was the first job that I was presented with for an interview. And then when I realized how much medical paid, it was a lot higher than my passion is mental health. My first internship was at an inpatient psych unit, adults, and then my second year placement was outpatient mental health. And I loved outpatient mental health. But they didn't have any jobs in the community center, exactly what you're talking about. I said, oh my God, I have zero money. I just got divorced, I had no money. And I'm like, oh, I need a job. I was calling those licensed bureau every single day, please process my paperwork, please process my paperwork. Because they're holding you up and getting your job. You can't get a job without that license. The first place that I got the interview was Palisades Medical Center in North Bergen, New Jersey. Right where that airplane landed on the Hudson, right outside. I was there that day.
They needed a social worker then.
Yeah, and they actually had me go to, I was doing per diem work in the ER at Hoboken University Medical Center. Get out of Palisades Medical Center, work 9 to 5, go to Hoboken from 5 until midnight, go home and sleep and do that again. And then on the weekends, I would do that, plus add another shift to psychiatric unit at my first year's placement. So I worked. That's all I can say. But when I went into hospice, which was a private company, when I went into dialysis, was a private company, I left dialysis making $73,000 a year. I worked my ass off. They ended up giving me a raise every single year, an increase of $1,000 every year. So they valued me. It was a company that they really valued social workers. Dialysis is mandated to have a social worker on staff. So any job that they're mandated to have you, I think you're valued a lot more. So that's something to consider. But I get calls all the time for interviews. Because I'm topped out at that level that I am with that 73,000, no one else will take me up. So that's why I went into private practice. Because I knew that I cannot live off of being a single woman. I live in Hoboken, and I have $800 worth of student loans a month. My rent is $1,400 a month. How do you, right there, I'm paying $20,000 in rent. So if I'm making 40 and the student loans are 8, that's 10,000 right there. You can't survive. You can't survive. So if you hustle in this field, you can make it, but also really look at the jobs that they need to have social workers, that they're mandated to have social workers. That would be my advice. If money is an issue. Money's not an issue, but if it is, and I love what I do. I mean, I work in the hospitals, and I work with women who have fetal demise, and I have to go in there and discuss that with them. I work with mothers that have, or heroin users, and I have to go in there and tell them, the state's going to come, and they freak out on me, but that's the reality. I look at saving that child from growing up in a family where there's drug use. Or I get a call in the ER, a woman who's pregnant got thrown on the ground by her boyfriend, talking about if you don't leave this person, the state's going to come and take your kids. And let's talk about the resistance towards leaving somebody who's not treating you properly. There's just so much. Yesterday, this guy, 74 years old, he fell on the ground. He has dementia. He cracked his head open. He has internal bleeding. He was missing for 3 days. I don't know how he did this. He got from the Bronx to Jersey City. Yeah, so trains, subways, everything. So they were just going to talk about find his family. Find his family. Okay, he's got no ID. He's got dementia. I finally got a name out of him. And I said, let me Google this guy. Well, he is on the NYPD missing persons report. I'm like, score. But so you're doing a lot of detective. Was that rewarding? Absolutely. At the end of the night, I have to call my detective 5 times. I'm like, you have the family's number, get back to me. It's 11:30, I need to go home now, PM. Finally called me back and give me the phone number. I need to call the wife. He's in ICU. We need paperwork to sign off on him. So, it is rewarding, but you're definitely needed in the medical field. Visiting Nurse Association, they have to have a social worker there too. And they do pay more, but you get help.
As an employee of visiting nurse, what I would say is that your first comp is probably the most valuable, and that is you're going to be paid more if you're in the medical field, for example, the nurses, as opposed to community mental health. And you're also obviously going to be paid more where you have patients, clients, consumers, whatever you call them, who are paying as opposed to Medicaid. I mean, it's that simple.
Well, the hospitals, it's different. It's like the inner city hospitals.
But it's medical.
Hospitals are pretty much, hospitals are different than community mental health. And community mental health, I think, is where a lot of people want to go. And there are dozens and dozens of your classmates and students from all the other programs in the area who are looking for, core hardcore mental health positions. And there are not enough positions to support that many graduates. I mean, it just isn't that. There's supply and demand. That has pushed wages for those kinds of positions down. Agencies can get away with it. The kind of money you're making is not what I think people are making.
You could be the best negotiator in the world, but
Yeah,
there's
there's no
no
money
negotiating.
there. I mean,
There's no negotiating.
And if you, in some of these places, if you push a little too hard, there are 20 other people, there are 100 other people whose resumes they have, and we'll call and we'll take that job a second for the experience. I'm not saying don't push for your needs, you absolutely should.
You have to know who your audience is. And like what I'm saying, I worked with corporate America. I mean, that's what, across this corporate America, Regional Ventures, they're popping up all over the place. And I was a social worker that whenever a new clinic opens up anywhere in the country, I flew and trained the social worker on all the regs that were there. So it's a little bit of a different kind of social work in that sense than community mental health. I mean, the money was there. Goldman Sachs is one of their partners. I mean, it's looking at, who's the players, can you negotiate with these people? And like you're saying, you're right, you're not going to be able to negotiate with a grant that's given to one community mental health center. They have all these positions, all these people applying, going to positions to fill.
Different than Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, so a lot depends on what end of social work you're doing.
Do we have another question?
I just wanted to add something, it's not a question, so I'm on the faculty here, so just that I'm in touch with my graduates from last year, and they stay in touch, let you know where they are and what they're doing. And I have to say, they did pretty well, salary-wise. I was surprised, there's nobody who's making 40,000 of the people that I've been in touch with, and one of them, geriatrics, actually, she came after you in the grant program, is working, I think it's the Jewish Home Life Systems home healthcare program. She's making, I think she came out making somewhere between 60 and 70 also. So there are specific places you have to sort of.
And that area, the whole, because all the healthcare is now being integrated, and so the companies, I'm sorry,
MLTCs, managed long-term care.
and as well as health homes,
Yeah.
or I know VNS has this choice sort of all around. So there are definitely opportunities, and you can definitely make nice salary. It's a different kind of work. You have to, if you love it, that's great.
And the other thing I just wanted to add about medical pays, I think it depends on where they go, because like I was meeting with a student today, she applied to New York Presbyterian for a job, and she was told they're not looking at anybody who's not out 2 years. And that never was the case. I think the large hospitals in New York City are very difficult to break into right now. So healthcare in a different form, but I think institutionally, we're not hearing about students getting jobs.
Except for the intern, if you really want to work in a hospital, make sure that you do your internship in a hospital. It'll make a real difference.
Yeah, be thinking about where you want to end up certainly for your second year placement.
I want to add to that a little bit that, you're not limited to your 2 placements. If you're in a 2-year program, I did a summer internship that I did on my own at the New York State Psychiatric Institute, specifically because I wanted an additional kind of social work on my resume. So now I have school social work, substance abuse, and hospital and severe mental illness. So you also can take control during the break and get either volunteering or interning.
Do you get C hours for all of your jobs, or is that something that you guys sought to, as a criteria for the job that you took, or is it not necessarily something that that's going to be available to you?
I think if you want to pursue, mental health private practice, that sort of thing, C is essential. I took my first position because it was an OMH license, and I knew that this was a number of years ago, and it was right after the OMH was starting to be difficult about who they were granting the seat to and which agencies were eligible and which were not. I took this position specifically because it was an OMH license, and I knew I was going to have C for years. And even though it was lower paying, because it avoided a lot of the chaos of that, but I think those positions are not easy to find. And I think that also plays into the salary and the supply chain issues.
You have to see it on the places. The I wasted 6 months of waiting at the hospital, actually, the first hospital. Oh, yes, I can supervisor, yes. And I said, well, when I went to apply for my LCSW, I said, where's your certification? Oh, I don't have that. I'm like, you didn't take a class, you didn't. Thank God I had a million jobs, so that didn't really matter. But I could still, I wasted 6 months. In 6 months, I'm thinking I'm going to get supervision, and I wasn't. So I had to make that up. So you'd have to see that because you're wasting your time.
So make sure.
Make sure they're certified. I mean, she told me she was, and I mean, why would I not believe her? And I don't think she realized, I said, you know, when I called her up for the LCSW, all my papers, I need a copy of that paper, the certification. She said, I don't have that.
Some of that information, at least was, probably still is, on the OMA's website. When I submitted my C application, I submitted the forms, the certifications that they have up on the wall that say they're a licensed facility. I just stuck that all over my application. You know, pretty much it's all here, there's nothing for you to argue with. But yeah, do the research.
And it takes about 2 to 3 years.
I think it's a minimum of 3 years.
I got it more.
No?
Yeah,
Get
they
your
changed
state-
the law after you got
To get a C, it's at least 5.
Really?
Oh, they should have 3 post LS, 3
Yeah.
post, 3
Yeah.
post
Oh,
LS,
yeah.
so.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. I'm thinking something. They cut down the hours. It was, they were gonna do 26 or 20,
Yeah,
whatever,
we
now it's
still have
10,000.
to graduate.
Oh.
Well, I always like to end the panel on an upbeat note.
Right.
So if we could go one by one and just like a minute of advice or something, just a little pep talking to our students and maybe about what we can
I agree with what we've said before, is pursue your passion. Know if you have a goal in mind, of who you want to be, what you want to do, even targeting a company that you want to work with. The company I'm at now, I actually intern with, and I love them because they're aging in place. To me, that's a sales perspective, and I support it. It works to my philosophy and my patients. So that's why I targeted them. Actually, they targeted me, so that was great. But, yeah, so, pursue your passion.
And I think that one thing that a lot of people who tend with social work are very good at is tending to others. And it's sometimes a little harder to tend to oneself. I don't just mean in this sort of self-care, you know, to get stressed out. I mean in this other sense of if you have a sense when somebody comes to you that you can see how they could do something for themselves to achieve their goals, give yourself the benefit of that. Don't forget that all the skills that you use to help other people, you can really use to help yourself.
I really value my education from NYU. When I was in my first year internship, the doctors would say, you're an NYU student. How did you know that? You know, it's because of the way we're taught to look at the whole person in different perspectives. And every single paper, there's a psychosocial that you write. We master the psychosocial at this school, and whatever field, whatever type of social work you do, that's exactly what you're looking at. Whereas a lot of the people I work with, colleagues, they went to schools that were very focused on case management. They missed a lot in their assessments. So I think that has really made me stick out in my hospitals and whatever I've done. And being the youngest one pretty much in all of the places I've worked at, you know, what does this girl know? She's a young grad, right? But they would come to me and say, God, we're so well versed in mental health. We don't know anything about mental health. And I think that really has to do with the school and just looking at the whole picture. So that's why I'm here speaking. I have nothing but great things to say. I wish it was cheaper, but you know how that is. But it was so worth the education. And you guys are going to leave here with the tools. I think one of the questions you asked was, what was the transition from people when we were prepping for this meeting? What was the transition from an internship to work? The transition period, there wasn't a transition because by the time you were ready, by the time you graduated, graduated, you were already running the show as an internship because you had the tools to do that. You were part of the facility, you were part of the organization. You weren't really an employee, but an intern. So you guys will leave here with more tools than most people have, and that does stick out. And it means a lot, really. So.
I would echo everything the three of you have said, and you've all said different things, but things that are very important parts of moving forward in your careers. Do what you love, take care of yourself. NYU graduates are very well thought of in the field. I've been part of the hiring process in some cases, and NYU resumes get a little more attention than some of the others, and that's true, especially for mental health type positions. I guess I would also say that remember your job is only one part of your life and only one part of your career as well. Certainly is only one part of your life. Have a rich, rewarding life outside of work. Interests that, passions, pursuits that interest you, things you're passionate about, things that you want to change in the world, things that you love doing, whether it's advocacy or whether it's even something like music. Or I go to chamber music concerts, which I love. It has nothing to do with my career. Try and have a rewarding personal life. And try and do other things in your professional life that are not just your job. That can be limiting, both professionally and for your own self. You probably are getting into this field because you want to help people, because you want to change the world in some way. And I would say find lots of ways to do that, not just your day job. This is why I do writing. This is why I do advocacy. This is why I'm involved with some of the organizations that I do. This is why I do public speaking like this. Because frankly, if I was sitting in an office all day, I'd be bored to tears. Not that I wouldn't enjoy it, but it wouldn't be full. So I would find ways to do that. And by the way, if anybody knows an agent or a publisher, let me know. But no, I would find ways to broaden your career beyond just your full-time.
Thank you all so much for coming. I hope we can attend some of our NextStepper meeting coming up next Thursday, the 18th at 1 p.m. And we'll have a little party at the end of the month, April 30th at 7. You'll see postings around the building and also so thank you so much, and thank you to our wonderful